Simplified Chaos, episode 190.
Life is beautiful and full of chaos.
And it can get slightly out of hand if that shit's not tamed.
We're here to share how to simplify the little things to help you lead a more intentional life.
This is Simplified Chaos.
Hey everyone, welcome to Simplified Chaos. This is Jillian and I'm with my co-host and husband, Nicholas.
What's going on, folks? We hope you all are having an amazing week. We've got a great episode here for you today. Jilly, what are we diving into? What are we evolving on?
I guess I think consumption of like podcasts, books. I think that's the alley we're going down today.
Yeah, kind of pretty much like influencers almost in a sense.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about the content and the people who are influencing us and, really sharing the wealth and hopefully turning you on to some folks. And if you're curious to go down that journey, we also have a huge announcement that we'll be making towards the end of this podcast. So you're going to have to stay tuned and listen for that. But before we dive into all of the good stuff, we'd love to show a little gratitude. So Jilly, what are you grateful for this week?
I am grateful for family and friends. We had a pretty epic weekend in Maryland. Saturday night, we stayed with some friends. Shout out to Bev and Kev.
Yeah.
And went to a really cool brewery near their house, had some sours, some burgers, and then we concluded the night in their hot tub.
Hell yeah.
Without children,
yep.
Which was so delightful. And then after that, we made our way to my mom's house and aunt and got to spend time with my sister and her kiddos and just soak in all the ages under 3, which I love so much because it's not like I'm having any more babies, but I can still savor all of the benefits of my sister's babies. It's just so good. We got outside a lot and played, and it's just nice to be around family for an extended period of time and just soak that in. So super grateful for them and the support, because we also had the spontaneous date night that my mom was like, listen, you need to go. I got Lucille. You guys go out.
And we did.
We did.
Yeah.
Got some good sushi. And
hell yeah.
It was amazing. So yeah, what about you?
So mine's pretty similar. I think for me, it's just travel, and it's kind of like intentional and coincidental travel at the same time, because it just happened to line up. I had a sales meeting that I had to be on at Tuesday in the office. And so just when our friends Bev and Kevin said, hey, the 21st is free, I was like, well, this is perfect. This is a long trip to Maryland. It's an intentional long trip, but it just happened to be coincidental that it happened on, the day that we were having this sales meeting, or a couple of days before the sales meeting. So it was just really nice when those kind of things come together. And then what you said, everything about family, friends, and, I'll add even coworkers, to that whole thing, and just being able to see so many people within that short period of time. I even got a chance to meet up with my uncle and aunt who had some family heirlooms that they wanted to pass along to us.
So looked at those,
we haven't. I'm excited to see what's in the box.
What's in the box?
So just, there was really no downtime the entire weekend, which was totally fine because it was just surrounded by such great people and people we love to be around, people who bring us up, and hopefully we bring them up as well. And I had a chance while you had a nice dinner night with your mom and sister.
Yes.
My brother-in-law and I cooked some steaks on the grill and just chowed down on some ribeye, and it was just awesome. So, and we had a chance to hang out with the kids, so it was awesome. We had such a wonderful time. Mm-hmm. So, Jilly. The last time we did one of these episodes, I looked it up right before we got on here. It was episode 39, which was back in September. It was on September 23rd, 2019, when we talked about podcasts that really influence us. So think of all that's happened between then and now. I mean, we're looking at not quite 3 years, full years.
Dang.
But we've had a full pandemic. Actually, I guess we are looking at 3 full years. We're almost looking at 4 full years. My math is a little off, folks. The nines really screw me up. But yeah, we've been through a pandemic and a whole bunch of other crap. We've obviously been on a health journey and things like that. But if anybody wants to really see where we were at, beforehand, definitely check out episode 39. And we're kind of going to do a little bit of comparison here, but really just talk a little bit more about how that's evolved, since this is the evolving series.
Yeah, I love this series because it forces us to kind of just see, where we were years ago and where we are today, and to see how that has evolved and shifted. It's wild to see what was like the main focus in our life at that time. So I know before, I definitely was listening to a lot of minimalist things,
yes.
as well as health things. So I was definitely listening to The Minimalist a lot. I believe I was listening to like Simplicity Parenting, and Melissa Ambrosini. She interviewed a lot of amazing people that opened my eyes to things like UV lights and what is it, like Wi-Fi, like, in just infrared thing, like a lot of things that I feel like are now super, super popular. Yeah. But back then it was like, I remember telling you about it and you were like, yeah, whatever, Jill. And I was like, what about Wi-Fi? And you're like, we're not turning off our Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Like, it was just funny to see like how I was just introduced to it and I was like really excited and geeking out. And then you were just kind of like, yeah, interesting. But it wasn't like your time, you know what I mean?
And now I'm the tinfoil man. So things have changed. Yes. Things done changed, for me at least.
So, and I know I listened to like some nutrition podcasts as well, since I, was a nutrition consultant back in the day and wanted to like keep up with nutrition news and science and, new things that were evolving in that arena. And now it's shifted slightly. I'm listening to I think not parenting, but more like unschooling podcasts.
Right.
So
you're in the thick of that now too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So some of the big unschooling podcasts that I am starting to consume, and it's not necessarily for knowing what to do with education at home. It's more just to build my confidence in myself and to hear stories and journeys of other parents that are in it or went through it, and hearing their wisdom, their reflections. And they're like my hype families, like they're building me up that like, I can do this. It's cool. It's a natural way of learning. And I guess because it's just so vastly different from how I was taught. So some of those podcasts are the Unschool Space. Love her on that. She's English, so she has a great accent.
Always love an English accent.
And another one is Let 'Em Go Barefoot, and that's hosted by Missy. I know that right off the top of my head because we interviewed her all about unschooling. So definitely check out that episode if you haven't heard it.
Make sure you link that in the show notes.
Yeah, her kids, I believe, they're a lot older now, like college age or like into high school. So I love seeing what she puts out there on Instagram as well, just to hear her her reflections of what she thought back then first starting and now. And so, yeah, those have been truly, truly helpful on this journey in approaching education at home in a very positive and open mindset for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want me to talk about more, or did you want to share any of yours?
I think it's good to just talk about how you evolved, and because okay. I'll do mine as well and see if there's any common ground.
Cool. Well, as far as like nutrition, now it's more shifted to like holistic health. It's not just food, it's a little bit of everything. So some of the podcasts that I've been consuming now is, one of them is called the Homegrown podcast, and another one is called Old Fashioned on Purpose. And they're both like family based. They have kids and they talk about an array of topics, including farming, like, raw milk, education, a little bit of like home educating, just a little bit of everything in life, like all the little nuances and gray. So I like hearing their take on what they're doing and just to, hear different perspectives. It's always good for me to hear the successes and what they're doing, and then maybe learning from other people's mistakes is way easier. So
Yeah,
I'm very
yeah.
aware of that as well. Like, okay, don't do that, cue my mind to be ready for that, or, so yeah, those are probably like my top ones. Some ones that aren't like really they're not nutrition or health. They're more like mindset. The Good Life Project. I've been listening to him for a while on and off. He has amazing guests. He is like, to me, the best questioner ever. He asks
I remember you
such
saying that.
deep and innovative, like really thought-provoking questions. He's such a good listener. I aim to be him one day when I interview. The Good Life Project, he has some really great guests on there, and he really dives deep with just not the surface. Like, even if it's like an author of a really cool book, it's not like just surface level questions. It's like he dives deep into like their history and maybe past trauma, or he's just really good at it. And there's one more, I think. Oh, so I sprinkle in a little bit of
Just a dash.
a new podcast. It's by Taylor Simpson. Her podcast is called The Embodied Woman. She is like my guru for authenticity. She puts her whole self out there. And since my intentions this year are to just step more into my weird, put it all out there boldly, I like having little nuggets of her here and there just to push my badass weirdness out, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah. And she uses the word delicious so much, and it makes me want to use the word delicious all the time. Like, not just with food. She's just like,
anything.
like, I want your life to be delicious. And I don't know
Is that
how
how
to
she says it?
a little bit.
Okay.
She's a little bit sensual because she's just the embodied woman. Like,
Gotcha.
she's embracing all who she is. And
She's delicious.
I don't know how else to describe it. She's my hype girl too, with confidence, and just doing me. So yeah, that's like my little sprinkle of everything. We've got, health, nutrition. We've got holistic homemaking, education. I feel like I just, mindset.
Yeah,
I got a little bit of it all.
You cover the gambit.
And I listen to it when I try to be intuitive with, like, what am I feeling? Like, I'm not like on autopilot or robot anymore with podcasts. I think I used to be like that before. It was
definitely
like
was.
the same podcast, and I would listen to every episode one after another. And now it's just kind of like, what am I feeling today? I'm not really feeling like consuming a lot of like health stuff today. So I'm just want to listen to like an interview or, something light or, so yeah, that's kind of my vibe.
You become more intentional with your time and what you're willing to consume during that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because this is an intentional podcast.
I guess it is.
Have you found, before I get into mine, have you found yourself consuming other resources or podcasts in other ways? For example, like on YouTube or other formats, or is it mostly still just podcasts for you, like just listening?
No, I feel like it's hard to, I don't want to say, I'm more auditory. Like, I mean, I like seeing, but when it comes to podcasts, I really just like listening to my ears.
Yeah.
I just love the intimacy of that because I feel like I don't know. It just reminds me too much of TV. Like, maybe it's why I don't like, I don't know, the thought of being on camera is just, it's just like another TV show. Like, there's something really mysterious that I love just about being in someone's ears and not them seeing me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I asked that because I consume, I think, in both formats now. Like, I'm consuming more video than I was before, but it's definitely depending on my time situation and where I am. So, like, of course, if I'm taking a walk or in the car, I'm not watching video. I'm paying attention to nature or the road. But if I find that I have some time and the podcast is available on video, or especially if there's a podcast where it's like they are using visuals in it, then I'm just like, yeah, I'm definitely watching the video as opposed to listening to the audio. But I have found myself consuming more on YouTube when I have the opportunity. And then I'm finding myself consuming audiobooks, which I never really did before. I'm certainly reading a lot more than I used to, but audiobooks have also been like a big part of my ritual and routine, which has really shifted my balance in how often I've been listening to podcasts and what I'm consuming. So I'm a lot like you, where I'm cherry picking the podcast that I'm listening to. I'm not going to listen to every episode of the people I'm listening to right now, but the ones where I feel like, hey, I can learn a little bit more from here, or this guy might sound interesting, then I'm doing that.
Yeah. Well, are we covering books too?
I mean, you don't have to, but
Okay.
I mean, if we want to sprinkle it in, since we're talking about sprinkling, we can sprinkle some at the end.
Well, I will say this past year, I read more books than I have probably since I was in high school, or the age where, or even like when I was able to read for fun, like when I was reading like not Are You Afraid of the Dark? I watched that. Like Goosebump books or Babysitter Club books,
yeah.
like those books. I feel like I consume so many books for fun, and I think that's a great reflection in itself. Like thinking about when I have choice in reading, I read so much more, and obviously creating space and time for that too. But it was really exciting this past year how many books I consumed. And I will say 80% of them were either related also to podcast, topics. It was parenting, mindset, spiritual. And the other 20% was just good old fashioned smut, But, I don't have
Gotta throw that in every now and then.
Yeah, I don't have to say any titles. And if people want titles, like, shoot us a message and we can gladly give you that list. But
yeah,
it was definitely similar in reading like hardback versus, podcast. There was a lot of similarities in topics, and it's kind of cool to see that connection as well.
Yeah. But I'd say my influencers have changed pretty significantly since we last talked about this on episode 39. If you go back and look at the show notes in that, or listen to that episode, you'll find that a lot of the podcasts that I listened to were more around politics. It was part of the problem with Dave Smith, the Tom Woods show, and just some other political type shows that were very libertarian leaning. And if there's something that comes up that catches my interest, I may listen to one of those, or at least a little bit of it, but it's definitely not anywhere in my queue anymore. And I'm not actively seeking that stuff out. My biggest thing has been really more health, self-improvement types of podcasts that I'm really consuming now. And a couple of them I really wanted to just kind of bring to the forefront because they've really been instrumental in shaping my mindset and my stance on nutrition. And it's really the reason why I'm on this carnivore diet journey. But the first person who really kind of was a stepping stone for that is called the Peak Human podcast with Brian Sanders. And this guy's got a very interesting story. He's actually coming out with a documentary, hopefully relatively soon. He's been working on it for an awful long time, but it's called Food Lies. And I'm just really...
The trailer is awesome.
Yeah, the trailer for it is awesome. Check it out on YouTube. But he just brings on a lot of great people. He asks questions, but he lets them talk, which is what I really like. So they really dive deep into nutrition, and he's not strictly carnivore. Like he's more animal based, or keto, so to say. But I mean, he brings on a whole heck of a lot of people, and they make a heck of a lot of sense to me too. So he was a really good springboard for me to dive deeper into this journey. And because of him, I found people like Judy Cho, and she's got a Nutrition with Judy podcast. I found Dr. Anthony Chafee, and I love the name of his podcast. It's called The Plant Free MD. That's a really good one, and he's helped me discover other people like Bart Kay, who is a nutritionist, statistician, and physiologist, and he's just an amazing wealth of knowledge. And then another podcast, which I'm really interested in, and I don't listen to them all the episodes, but I do find some good episodes in there, is the Meat Mafia podcast. And I really just love not only the podcasts that they're putting out, but the content they're putting out on social media, the newsletters that they're putting out there. They're really just trying to raise awareness around where food's coming from, how people are influencing food, and how that's influencing you and what you're purchasing. So even though it sounds like kind of a crazy podcast called the Meat Mafia, they're actually, doing some really great stuff. And I've just been really happy with the content that they're putting out there. Another person who I really started listening to just recently is Andrew Huberman and the Huberman Lab podcast. And this guy, just basically put stuff out there, evidence-based research kind of stuff. So like, for example, he did one about purposely using cold therapy and how the benefits for that, the benefits of sauna and hot therapy. And, he just really dives deep into a lot of subjects that really kind of help optimize human health and amongst other things. And so I've just really found him to be very fascinating, and how he can talk for an hour just, without anybody else, him just talking, and he does interview episodes as well, but he just knows his stuff. And he's one of those people who also does the video, and you can kind of either watch him on YouTube or listen to him in your ears. Either way, it's a good listen. But yeah, I've really shifted away from the political stuff, and have been really more focused on the health aspect of my life. That's just really what's important to me right now. I'm not saying that these are going to be the podcasts that I'm listening to in 2 years, but these are where I'm at in my season of life right now, and I've just gained tremendous value from them, and really just want to share it with everybody else, because that's what we do. When we find people we like, we share them, we put them out to the world, and in hopes that people would do the same for us. If you're finding benefit from the things that we're doing.
Yeah, it'll be cool to listen to this podcast like 2 or 3 years from now, and just to see, that's what we were listening to then.
Yeah.
And then to see, what we're consuming now. And it's interesting how you said now you're just kind of consuming more videos, but those videos, it's mostly because of like, isn't it cooking meat and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Too?
I mean, that's the other stuff is like, now that I'm really into this journey, it's like, you can only cook burgers so many different ways, but now I'm trying to figure out different ways to cook stuff. I just got a sous vide. Thank you, Drew, for that. So I'm really excited to start using a sous vide and cooking meat that way, and trying different things. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to expand my repertoire. I need to cook a pizza here pretty soon, which is a pizza just out of all meat. It looks amazing.
With cheese though, right?
There's cheese.
Okay.
There's cheese.
I'm like, is the cheese meat too?
No, it's pretty much all meat though.
Cheese meat.
Cheese meat. But yeah, YouTube has been just another great thing for me as far as just building up my skill set and just understanding things a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's funny. 2 of these podcasts were actually a reference from like another friend. So I love when people share something that's bringing them value. And especially if they're like, I think you'd really resonate with this people. I know my friend Veronique was like, oh my God, this couple reminds me of you. They're a husband and wife duo, and they talk about really interesting topics I think you'd like. So we love hearing recommendations because there's just so many podcasts now. It's
so many.
It's overwhelming. And I do like how, like with Google Podcasts, you can just pick the ones you follow, and then that's all you see. So it's like streamlined, like these are the ones I'm focusing on. And then if I want to go into the abyss and search for another one, I can. But yeah, if you guys have any podcasts that are bringing you a ton of value, whether that's just like, funny or, educational, or just that you think this is different or wild, that we would enjoy it, definitely please share them, because we always love recommendations. At least I definitely do, and I take them seriously.
Yeah. I would have had no idea who the Meat Mafia was if it wasn't for my brother saying, hey, have you checked these guys out? So yeah, absolutely. We love word of mouth kind of things. And, we hope you'll check out some of these podcasts. We'll list them in the show notes if you want to look them up. Some of the ones that we've mentioned here today. But Jilly, is there anything else you wanted to add before we go into our big announcement?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, folks, it's time. This is episode 190, and we have a big announcement here. And the announcement is there are only going to be 10 more episodes left of the Simplified Chaos podcast. We will be stopping at episode 200. It's hard to believe that we've been doing this for 4.5 years. But I will say this. It is not goodbye from the Kaselniaks. We have some plans here that we're not ready to share yet, but we will be sharing before we sign off on episode 200. But yeah, we kind of had a conversation not too long ago, and
yeah,
And it was a good conversation. Where were we? I don't even remember. This was like back in...
We were at a coffee shop.
Well, of course we were at a coffee shop.
I think we were at Ingrano.
That's probably it. So we were in Maryland and Annapolis. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
And I came up with this crazy idea and said, how about we cap it at 200? We've talked a lot about simple living, intentional living, simplified chaos. We've conquered a lot of chaos in the 4.5 years.
And still going strong.
Yeah. But we were really talking about just ideas for some other content that we could potentially be putting out there.
Different direction.
And we're going in a different direction, and it doesn't make sense to put that under the simplified chaos banner, so to say.
As much as I love simplified chaos.
It's it's going to be our baby.
I know. We're like, it's sad. I'm definitely going to be mourning.
Yeah. Yeah.
This baby that we've created and started and had no idea what we were doing. Hopefully, we'll be more professional in our next chapter, but hopefully it's just going to be different.
Yeah.
I have so many words I want to say and I just can't put it together now, but yeah.
It's tough because it's been such a big part of our lives. I mean, hell, when we first started, Lucille was breastfeeding on you while we were podcasting and stuff like that. And now we have a 4.5-year-old daughter. A lot of stuff. We've met some great people. We've visited people across, the United States because of this podcast. And we really hope that what we're getting ready to do, that you'll come and follow us over there and check out that part of our journey. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be unique. And we're just really excited for a new chapter. But we're not ready to spill the beans quite yet on what we're doing because we still have a lot of stuff to do. But we've really kind of mapped it out and said, we can get a lot of stuff done over the next couple of months while we're rounding out the next 10 weeks or the next 10 episodes of Simplified Chaos. So we hope you'll come along for the last 10 episode journey. But more importantly, we hope you'll come along to the next step with us as well.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if you all want to do, I don't know if we should do another Q&A or something unique. If you guys have any ideas on anything you want us to do before we close out this chapter
we'll put it on the gram.
Lives, definitely reach out or write us an email or a DM, and we'd love to hear from you because, it really hasn't hit me until now that we're talking about it on air.
You're like, how are we going to do this? And I'm like, I'm just going to put it out there, put it out to the universe.
I'm really going to have to get my words together to eloquently, farewell to all this.
Yeah, but we still have 10 episodes left. We'll save our farewells for the final episode. And then we will certainly let you all know what we're going to be doing there. But it's been just the 190 episodes that we've completed here have just been amazing. We have some just amazing listeners. We've had some amazing guests that we're still in contact with. So please, stay with us and keep in touch with us and see us through on these final 10 episodes here.
You did well. I'm glad you were the one who talked most of the time about this because I feel like I would have been a blubbering idiot and may have cried just even talking about it.
It's all good. It's all good. Did you have any, before we sign off, do you have any resources or anything you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, really short ones.
All right, let's do it.
I found a blog post that was called You Are What You Consume, since this episode was all about consuming podcasts, books. So here it goes. You must refuse to take a casual approach to what you consume. There are billions of bits of information available, all fighting for your attention. Fortunately, you can only pay attention to a small fraction of data at a time, which makes the information you do pay attention to that much more critical. What you focus on will have an enormous impact on your mindset, attitude, perspective, and how you see the world. If you find that you have a good handle on your mood and attitude, you can stop reading now. Anyway, the rest of it just goes on and talks about some pretty key factors and what affects, things you consume. And I thought that was just a nice little blurb to round it out.
Absolutely. All right. And then did you have any other resources? That was the only resource you had there?
I think that's the only one. I found another one, but
we're going to save it for another day.
Yeah.
All
Sorry.
Right. Quote of the day.
It's all
good.
this whole announcement, I'm like,
I know, right?
it's got my mind all twisted.
I know.
Yeah. The quote of the day is, what your mind consumes determines what consumes your mind. What consumes your mind controls your life.
Touche.
Boom shakalaka.
That is truth. And then your take action challenge, besides listening to us for the next 10 episodes, is...
You just love saying that.
I do.
Pay attention to what you're consuming. You know, just be mindful of it and make changes if you don't like it.
I like it.
I'm glad that you liked it.
Awesome. Well, all right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. If you like this episode, please do us a favor and help us spread the message. You can do this by writing a review or simply by sharing this episode with a friend. And remember, sharing sparks a conversation. Conversation leads to action, and action is how we're able to live a happy and intentional as hell lifestyle. We want to thank you all for listening today, and we will see you again next week.
See y'all later.